Hello, everybody, and welcome to Peter and Sylvia. We are again talking about health and well-being in the workplace and in life in general. And we are known for saying things that other people might not want to say or dare say. So if you think that what we're saying is controversial, happy days, because that means you will have an opinion that we would really love to hear. This episode is going to be about something, a new term that I heard recently. As you can see, my background is different to normal, but I'm in Denmark at the moment as we do this recording. And I saw a news item or a panel discussion which ran on the theme that someone of the panelists had coined, and I think she wrote a book on this, and unfortunately, I can't remember her name to give her proper credits. But it's like, don't be an ask hole.
Mhm.
People have become very good at talking about themselves, but they don't ask about anybody else. They become ask holes.
Mm,
There's just nothing. If we can't talk about ourselves, then what do we talk about?
mm,
And a lady, I think she would have been, late 40s, early 50s, maybe. She went on a date, went for a walk in the park with this man, and he talked about himself. She asked about him and what about this? What about that? And she would expect that eventually he would also ask questions about her, what she was doing, about her life, whatever. And she left gaps in the conversation. People like to fill the silence, and he filled the silence with more talk about himself, not questions about her. So after the date, she had had a long walk with a man, perfectly decent bloke, but he never asked a question about her. He only talked about himself. So that date didn't go any further. But it's not just on a date, it's in life in general. You will see people on the pavement walking side by side. You It's not wide enough for three or four people to pass. And I've always learned and I've always practiced to, you go in front of each other and just make space so we can pass. It's be aware of what and who's around you. Doesn't seem to happen anymore an awful lot. I don't know if you come across things like this in your daily life, Sylvia, where we are concerned about our own self, our own well-being, just never mind others.
mm. Um, it's very interesting because I hadn't thought of it in these terms. Uh, and have I experienced things like this? Thinking about it now, yes, I do, and I have, particularly the one with the pavement thing. I can be walking down the pavement on my own, and there'd be two people walking towards me, chatting away. And yet if it was me and someone else, we'd like adjust, morph and the other one, and then we morph back alongside. But no, they would just carry on walking side by side. And they almost look at me with some disgust if I sort of stand and just wait for them to adjust around me. Or it's almost if it's expected I'm the one that will walk in the road. Now, if that's the type of thing you're talking about, then yes,
Mm.
I have. In terms of conversations, as you were giving that example, I was sitting there thinking, yeah, I've had quite a few examples of that where you just meet someone in general or just in life or down the stables or something, and they'll just talk about themselves the whole time. And then it's as if then time's up and off they go. You think, oh, all right then. What popped up for me there though is the disadvantage when you're a listener. That's what was popping up for me as you were talking. Because I tend to be a listener, and quite often I will listen to the other person, telling their story, telling their stuff. And if we were talking in a general conversation context, there is a general acceptance that the other person will ask the other person. So Peter, what do you do? What have you been up to? But that doesn't happen. And being a listener, you just wait and wait and wait, like your lady's example, and that doesn't happen. And then time passes, and the person says, "Right, I've got to go now." Oh, okay, right. Um, and it's really interesting how people, given back up for a moment. There was what's popped up for me, there was a talk that was done many years ago, and a senior CEO stood up and he said, it's great, isn't it, that I at last got the opportunity to talk about myself. But that was in the context of sharing an example of something that he'd overcome for the benefit of other people. And I think that's different here to the context of someone just talking about themselves, whether it's getting across who they are, and perhaps they hope the other person's going to get a sense of who they are and their values, and are they a nice, person or not, forgetting that the other person does need to have some input, forgetting the other person is there and is a conversation. It's not just one person talking. Yeah.
I just wonder what is behind this, because it's not generational. We can't just drag out one generation and blame them for all sorts of things. I love to blame social media for all sorts of things, and sometimes it's fair, sometimes it's absolutely not. I appreciate that. But we are very concerned, it seems, with our own convenience, maybe very self-centered. Could it have something to do with social media, that we are presenting ourselves all the time, but actually we're not getting anything back? I mean, a selfie is not asking anybody how they're doing. Talking about what you had for dinner last night, or what your pet did, or whatever, is not inviting somebody else to tell you what they experienced. And I just wonder if the media we have available to us these days have taught us in some way that we should just talk about ourselves, and other people will consume that, and that's fine. But then again, you go to networking meetings, whether they are online or in the analog world, the etiquette there is to ask about the person you're talking to, get them to talk about themselves, so you understand their business, what it is that they're doing. And the etiquette again is that they will then ask back, so that it is a conversation. So is it the art of conversation that has gone out the window? I don't know.
And there's an interesting point, because I hadn't thought of the angle of the social media, which we have touched on, haven't we, in previous chats we've had, where when you have social media, it's the ping pong. I send, someone responds. I send, someone responds. Whereas conversation, talk over each other, interrupt each other. Oh, hang on a minute. Oh, hang on. It's that. It's not the regimented of a social media. And it's interesting, the art of conversation, and perhaps I hadn't thought of it in those terms. Perhaps there is an influence of social media, that you talk about yourself and then you wait for someone else to come back in. But by the time you've done that, the other person, like your lady's gone, bye. Yeah, it's too late. But no, it's a really interesting concept. Perhaps we are starting to lose the art of conversation, and this regimen of the ping pong, of social media. That conversation, the interaction, the asking other person what's going on, what are you up to, and over talking each other, interrupting each other, and those silences, waiting for someone else to say something. It's a very interesting concept, but it's got me thinking.
And then there will be people screaming at us right now, saying, well, I hate talking about myself. So are we dragging something out that is, of course it's happening, but is it a trend? Is it a typical thing that's going on, or is it just one of the things that's going on? Because there are people out there who hate talking about themselves.
Yeah.
And then there are those who can talk about nothing else but themselves. So I don't know where the middle ground is on this, but if it's big enough for people to notice that it happens more and more, there must be some kind of trend going on, that we have become less able or willing or observant, I don't know what to call it, to then pay attention to other people.
I think what's popped up for me there is self-awareness. And again, there's quite a lot of articles been written this year about self-awareness is one of those understated or a skill that there should be more of. Talk about leadership, self-awareness in this sort of environment. Oh, hang on a minute, I have been talking about myself a bit too much, and then ask the other person. So I think a lot of it is raising our self-awareness or being self-aware. And that sort of comes back to our example of people walking along the pavement, is being aware that there are other things around us. There are other things going on around us. That spatial awareness, self-awareness. We are not in isolation. And I think perhaps that is something, for people to raise their awareness to. As you say, some people don't like talking about themselves at all. And again, just to raising that awareness as to why that is. And then also those that talk about themselves all the time or get hooked up in talking about themselves, raising that self-awareness actually that there is someone else on the other side of the table. There is someone else on the other end of the phone. And they have a voice too.
And then having that awareness, we then need to also understand how do we respond appropriately when we are aware.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's something that's missing there as well. So it'll be interesting, as always, to hear what other people think. Have you come across this, or is it just Sylvia and I going off on a tangent here? Let us know what you think, and we shall talk an awful lot about you if that's what you want us to do.
It's interesting you said, though, this was a panel discussion in Denmark, so it's obviously a thing somewhere. So again, it's interesting. Yeah.
Panel discussion on primetime TV, so it must be going on.
Yeah.
Tell us what's going on in your life. Are people aware of you? Are you aware of others? Who's and what is bumping into you? So thank you for watching, and we shall see you shortly. Take care for now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.